Welcome back, folks. You are watching Moving Forward, a program designed to assist our nation in moving forward. This evening, we're discussing service generally, but specifically, we want to talk about voluntary service. And we have assisting us in this great task this evening, Dr. Marvin Smith, Mr. Wellington Richards, and Mr. Clinton Clark, all professional people, all service people, all members of the Rotary Club of West Nassau. So just before the break, we were talking about voluntary service, the importance of voluntary service. And you said something, Marvin, that really was profound, in that if our leaders sort of devalue voluntary service, then we're not going to encourage our people to give that voluntary service, like your reference about the military in the United States, that service. And so you talk about the national awards and recognition by the state, and you're quite right. The vast majority of the honorees are either from the political class or the business class.
Right.
And the volunteers who have perhaps for years been laboring to undergird the various sectors of the society, they are omitted. And after a while they began to think, well, nobody values my service. What do you say about that?
Well, I would tend to agree, Brother Moss, but when I look at it, I think of, it's not an official adage, but there's this phrase that people say, you have to get in where you fit in. And I think what has happened is that people have really just usurped their own ability. They don't believe that they have the value to add, which is not the case. And again, I'm not from the medical field, but a lot of this I believe is learned as well. And you come up as a child, if you learn to do chores, you learn to set the table, you learn to clear this, you learn that there is a part of you that has to be engaged in service. You go out of the house, you go to school, you learn to assist the teacher in the classroom, you go to church, you learn to assist with making the altar on the weekends or assisting the choirs. You start to learn this behavior. What has happened is I believe that there's so much in our society now that has removed kids away from this actual service. They might play a video game, they're so detached. And so in their minds, they're not making the connection that there's more to this world, there's more to this community than you. The word community itself means commune. There's more that's going on than just yourself. And we've lost that. We've lost touch, right? And so because of that, people don't see the connection. They don't make the ability and the steps to go and try to add value. We are all professionals in different realms. As Marvin indicated before, you can touch somebody wherever you are. Folks need to realize that. The reach of one person in this country will not reach the 350 to 400,000 people. So we need to spread that, right? And if Marvin through his commitments in his work environments can touch 10,000, if I can touch 10,000, if Clinton can touch 10,000, if you can touch 10,000, we've collectively touched 40,000 people. Whereas if we left it up to Marvin alone, that's only the reach of 10,000. So the Bahamians need to realize that everyone in this country has to have a vested interest in service, have beliefs in their talents, be good, be righteous, be virtuous, thereby wanting the right things, to inculcate the right things. We want, good messages going forward. We want good encouragement. We want the things that we're doing in society to be productive things in society. And so everyone needs to understand that they have a key role to play in this. You can't just leave it up to, as you indicated, a few folks in philanthropic organizations. Everybody in this country has a role to play and can add value in this space. Get out, get involved, make positive contributions within your own personal community, within the Bahamas, and we can see this become a global phenomenon. The entire world would benefit once we all get off the sidelines and positively engaged in service.
So what you have just now, Reverend CB, is a challenge by my good brother and friend, Wellington, basically challenging society and challenging people in general to give of service.
But we have to help them.
Yes.
We have to assist them. Here's what I mean. Having been involved in voluntary work for 45 years,
yes,
as an employer, when I'm perusing a resume, I look for that voluntary service. And if everything else is equal, I'm going with the person who has given service.
Yes.
And that is not projected from the top down. And I keep going back to what Marvin said, the top down. For example, You want to be a member of parliament. You want to then be a member of the cabinet, directing people, directing organizations, directing this nation's affairs. You have not given 1 day of service, not even as a member of the PTA where your children went to school. Where's your training? Where's your understanding of people?
Reverend Dr. Morris, you're going to get me fired today. Listen, it is critical when you look at the way our governance system runs.
That's right.
All right? Anywhere else in the world, if I want to run in a particular area, I have to go in that area, work in that area, know the people, know stuff. We don't have that here. Basically, all you got to know is whoever's sitting on the Stalwart Council in one party or the National General Council in another party. And if the leader say you run in, you run in.
Yeah.
And so, again, the concept is I don't have to get to know these people who I want to lead. I just got to get to know the person at the top.
That's right.
Now, here's where we also, I'm going to go back some, we also need to, while we begin this as kids and we learn this stuff, we all grew up, and I grew up as an Adventist and as a junior deacon and working with the choir and doing these different things. When to college, we joined fraternities, we had to do different charity groups and those sort of things.
That's right.
All three of us happened to be members of St. David's Lodge,
Yes.
Scottish Constitution.
Yes.
We participated in a program called Boys Club of Excellence, where on Fridays, we're at Gerald Cash Primary. We've
Yes.
been doing it for 6 or 7 years now.
yeah.
And when we went there, we said to the principal, give us your worst behaving boys.
Yes.
Okay? And we take the boys from grades 4, 5, and 6, and we've been working with them, and they're seeing a difference. And every Friday, a different 2 or 3 brothers from our lodge go down and do that. Even in lodge, as you come up in and you join, the first thing you have to do is go in the kitchen and serve.
Service.
And
service.
clean up and do these different things.
Service.
And so here it is now. I'm coming, I'm chief pharmacist, I'm this and that. I joined the lodge.
That's
I
right.
got to get in the kitchen and do
Service.
dishes.
That's right.
It always reminds you that you are here to serve others. If we don't have those sort of structures operating efficiently, and if we're not as parents and as caregivers promoting to our children to join these things.
Yes.
See, we have this thing in the Bahamas where we've become so high and mighty that we don't want our kids to associate with
That
nobody
is
else
true.
anymore. But back in the day, you were pushed to go to Girls Guides or Boy Scouts or Brownies or the Baptist Band or the Pathfinders and the Adventists. These are the things that you were pushed to do. When I was at COB and West Nassau sponsored the first Rotary Club in the country, and I was one of the founding members, that was one of the things that people like Roston Miller and Alpheus and Brendan Watson and those guys pushed us to do. Where are the organizations that are in this country that are doing that? And if they are doing it, are they being funded and promoted
that's right.
from a national perspective? As a growing country, you cannot tell me you want my youth to grow, all right? And your Girls Guides, your Baptist Brass Band,
That's right.
your Rotary clubs, your Interact clubs, your key clubs and all these different things that are in the country are not getting a sustainable part of our
That's right.
national budget
That's right.
to say, help us promote character, service, and integrity. All right? If you leave it up just to the churches who may only interact with their young people twice a week, if you leave it up to schools where, particularly in our public schools, where they're overcrowded, under-resourced, it's not going to happen.
That's right.
It's not going to happen. And so we have to find a way as a nation to plan how we grow service.
That's right.
Because by the time they get to showing up at the hotel with a job application, or the time they get even when they come back home with their bachelor's or master's, if you haven't ingrained that culture in them, because
That's
service
right.
is about
That's
character.
right. That's right.
It's not
About
going to be right.
character. There you go. And that has been our problem because we have devalued service. You know, back in the day, almost every boy had to, as you said, been in the Boy Scouts, the Boys Brigade, the church group, something in service. We have got to rediscover the value of service. See, the Bahamas is too small, physically and economically, to be able to propel us to where we should go and where we want to go on our pocketbooks. You can't pay for it. We need volunteers to help move this nation. How do you do that? By volunteering in those same organizations that you all have just referred to help to train the youngsters so that when they reach adulthood, they can take this nation a step further. But the act of service is non-existent.
And let me throw another wrench in this.
Yes.
We need to do it with our young men.
Yes. Oh, yes.
We need to do it with our young men. That's where we're losing in this country. We have lost a complete generation of young men who feel like to do anything in service is beneath them.
Yes.
They come from these families, single mother families, where mothers cater to these young men, right? They cater to them. And so they grow up believing to be catered to rather than how do you incorporate them. And how do you learn these things? You learn it by going out and being a packing boy and having to pack groceries. And understand that sometimes you might get $1 and sometimes you might not get anything, but you smile all the time. We learn that growing up. We have to do this with our young men.
Yes, and we must value service. When you value service, our young people will begin to recognize that they have something of value. But now what we have is you ask a person to do something, how much are you going to pay me? Well, wasn't it for me? Because they've lost that sort of intrinsic component of serving. You know, this is a nice point perhaps to segue into the organization that we all are part of, Rotary, which has service as the core of its existence. And Rotary had a slogan a few years back, I think, that says, "He profits most who serves best." He profits most who serves best. And we should promote that. We should value voluntary service. And we start at the top, as you said. Everyone who is presented for national leadership has to be able to show that somewhere along the way, not only did they give service, but through giving service, you learn the people. How can you govern people you don't even know? You learn the people, you understand the way the things work. A lot of people are sitting in high positions, both in state, church, and corporate, who making major decisions affecting the lives of a whole lot of people have not a clue because they don't know who they are serving because they never offered service.
Impact in Baytown and they never drive through it yet.
Never drive through it. Don't understand it.
And I think too, what happens is that a number of folks, once they ascend to the pinnacle of their career or wherever it is that they may be operating, they tend to forget that they did not arrive there on their own, right? People have adopted this philosophy that they've gone to school, they've gotten their master's, their PhD or whatever, so they've arrived, their different certifications. And they feel now compelled that they have done this in and of themselves. They don't realize that the amount of impact from the people that went in and fed into them. We always hear people about, look at the shoulders upon which we stand. That sort of understanding is now starting to be put by the wayside. Folks don't look at us as a community. Everyone's trying to get ahead for themselves or their own family individually. They don't realize that this is not an individual sprint that we're all engaged in. This is a collective relay. And to the extent that I run my leg well, and I extend to you the stick, and you run your leg well, and you extend to him the stick, and he runs his leg well, that gives us all the opportunity to win the race.
That's right.
If we're trying to do it all on our own, we're going to be very, very ineffective, and we're eventually not going to be able to benefit at all. And so folks need to recognize that and get involved.
Well, we have to understand that.
Well, getting involved, as you said, from a service base, and you touched on the organization, Rotary. Rotary thrives on the motto, service above self. And we take that literally, because when you give service, you should give it above self, and it should not be the other way around, which is self above service, right? And so what we seek to do is to make a lasting impact in our communities here in the Bahamas and around the world, whether it be through child health, whether it be through sanitation, providing clean water, whether it be through the eradication of polio, whether it be through just going into the inner city in a community such as like the school E.P. Roberts and building, putting in place a library, putting in place computers, whether it be to go to the C.R. Walker High School, where we have an interact club and building benches and, you know, just inspiring the students to go out and spread the message of what Rotary is all about, going into the H.O. Nash School and forming an interact club for the junior high students and instilling in the students there that there's, you know, something good that comes out of giving back to your community, which is giving service, going into the Eva Hilton Primary School, which was formerly the Oaksfield Primary School, and forming an early act club, and just instilling into the children at a very young age that, you know, you should be giving back, and it should not be, you know, what can I get out of this, but
That's
what
right.
can I give back. And going at the University of the Bahamas, which was formerly College of the Bahamas, where we have, as Dr. Smith indicated, the first Rotary Club to be formed, where it's still thriving today. And you have the students. Just yesterday, I was with the students from UB at the Center for Deaf, and they were there planting a garden, putting down peppers and cabbage and, you know, thyme and so forth.
That's right.
And giving service from their own little means that they have, and actually creating a garden and working with the community just to bring about relief to others. And so I think that's where we want to go, and that's what Rotary, or the brand of Rotary, seeks to spread across the globe and just internationally. And we have that here in the Bahamas, and we have Rotary clubs that are actually working on the ground, pushing the ideal of giving service above self. And so I think that's where we want to go, and that's the message that we need to spread and continue to push.
And Reverend Dr. Moss, Clinton is being a little bit modest.
Yes, I was about to say that.
What he forgets to say.
I was about to say that.
Those are projects of the Rotary Club
Oh,
of West
I was
Nassau,
about to say
and
that.
he is the president.
I was about to say
leading
that.
us in that. When you look at that, we're the only Rotary Club in the country that has an interact to an early act to interact.
And an early act is in the primary school.
In the primary
okay?
school, yes.
Two in the junior high and then high school of interact.
Right. And then
the Rotary Act at the university level.
Only club.
On the only club.
We're going to discuss. I was about to say that you beat me to it, Marvin.
I know how he goes.
All of those are projects of the Rotary Club of West Nassau, and we're all proud of them, and we're going to discuss them in a bit more detail later. You were about to say?
I was just going to say that it goes to our point from earlier, that it shows the necessary transition.
Yes.
You get in, as he indicated, at Eva Hilton with the early act. Then you transition to H.O. Nash, which is a junior high school with one of the interact clubs. Then you go to C.R. Walker with the next level of interact. Then you get to UB with the Rotary Act. And then once they're done with that, they transition into Rotary.
That's right.
So we're now again seeing the tangible example of whereby you can properly train from a child to an adult and inculcate service. And this is how we're going to be able to promote being able to push service in our country going forward.
Well, we're going to take our final break, and we're going to be right back where we're going to talk about what Rotary Club of West Nassau has done over the years, is doing now, and hopes to do. Don't go away, folks.
Only love can save us now.